This was an event recap for my 1-pound combat robot Hammerhead. Hammerhead was a rush-built ant with a hijinks-inspired design. Hammerhead is the successor to the last robot I showed on this channel, Overbite. Hammerhead includes the same weapon system as Overbite, but in a much more stable frame. Overbite to Hammerhead is a little like Danger Zone to Future Killer. It's a robot with a pretty solid weapon, but a really unstable frame. Keeps the weapon system, but in a much more sturdy and triangular-shaped frame. Due to this robot being a rush build, I had no spare drive motors, wheel hubs, wheels, or back standoffs, and the frame was printed out of PLA. Quick side note, you may notice that the mount for the back standoff is really weird. That's because I had originally intended to have a fork setup on the back, but after realizing how easily I got stuck on them, I never ended up using them. My first match was against Rookfort, a 6-wheel drive wedge with every single one of the wheels exposed. So for this match, I was hoping to get around to the back, try and take off wheels, and maybe catch some edges on the sides of the wedge. During testing, I didn't realize that I had my weapon going the wrong way, and so for my first fight, it's spinning backwards. But with that being said, let's see the fights.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fight!
And here we go. Rookfort takes the initiative and charges towards Hammerhead's corner. One gate lowered, one gate raised. Rookfort with the wedge weaponry is looking to muscle Hammerhead out of the arena, or maybe tip them off balance a little bit. By exerting a lot of forward pressure, Rookfort is able to prevent Hammer Time from getting their blade spinning to the speed that it needs. But now with that blade engaged, Rookfort has to be a little bit more careful. Hammerhead's going to be looking for an angle to attack from the side or the back, looking for those exposed wheels as Hammerhead boasts that very protective forward-facing wedge. This is a contest of driving skill now. Who can get the appropriate angle to exert their will over their opponent? Hammerhead also staying pretty safe from that ring out, keeping the battle in the blue corner far away from that lowered gate. And it sounds like Hammerhead's blade is whirling down. They've got to get that blade moving again before they have to exert a backup strategy. In a shoving match for the ring out, Rookfort definitely has an advantage here, but so far there has been a lot of maneuvering and no exposed parts, but Rookfort, their wedge is starting to look loose. Maybe a screw has been shaken loose by all of the impact. That might put a bit of pressure on the timer here. There is still about 1.5 minutes remaining in the match. We'll see if Hammerhead is able to continue doing some damage here, as Rookfort is now stuck on their wedge a little bit. This should provide ample opportunity for Hammerhead, to find an angle here as they start grinding away at that metal plate. With Rookfort's mobility disabled a little bit too, maybe Hammerhead can find an angle and maneuver Rookfort out. We'll see if Rookfort's able to exert some alternate strategies and find some redemption here, as one of the rubbers of the wheel have gone loose. There's 2 wheels with 30 seconds remaining. In the final minute of the round, Hammerhead has racked up some nice damage onto Rookfort. Still driving though, so we might be going to our first judges' scorecard of the day. And we see more rubber getting strung out from Rookfort here as we reach the end of the match. We will await our judges' decision, but for those new to robot combat, these matches are scored based on damage dealt to your opponent, level of aggression, and the amount of time you spend controlling your robot.
Double check what his verdict is. Sure, for this. Okay, unanimous for Hammerhead.
And that is a unanimous decision to victory for Hammerhead.
That fight went pretty well. I was able to take out 4 of his 6 wheels and mess up his wedge a fair amount in an all-round good first showing for Hammerhead. My next fight was against a tanky aluminum pusher named Mr. Plow. My only strategy going into this one was to try and pick hits on the sides of his plow and try not to get pinned, but that's about it.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fight!
And here we go. Hammerhead gets their blades spinning up as Plow moves towards them here. And we're seeing some big bounces here. With each bounce, momentum gets cut though. Mr. Plow's wedge looking like it's been compromised a little bit, hanging by a single screw on one side. But Hammerhead almost getting knocked out. Plow looking to take advantage and shove Hammerhead out of the arena while they're vulnerable here. Right now it's a pin. We'll see if Plow can get the angle. Ooh, Hammerhead has to be really careful here. They're skirting right on the edge. Looks like Hammerhead having some trouble finding some grip on the ground with their wheels here. Plow is continuing to get a little bit of control time. And Hammerhead manages to get themselves whirring again. That was a close call at the edge of the arena, folks.
Thank you, weapon vibrations.
And now we're getting right back to the action. Mr. Plow having to be a little bit careful here, hanging on by a single screw. And looks like as each collision occurs, they're getting more and more compromised. Hammerhead, though, has been flipped upside down and is going to need to find an angle to give their weapon some purchase against Mr. Plow's low-hanging frame. Mr. Plow's weapon, however, is also hanging on by a thread. We'll see if they're able to maintain that control. They've got some points on those judges' scorecards for those pins earlier, for sure. And they're barely managing to deflect the attacks of Hammerhead with that wedge that's still hanging in there. Less than a minute left on the clock here. We might go to judges' scorecard and we'll see what the verdict is as more pieces go flying across the arena here.
30 seconds!
30 seconds remaining. Hammerhead swinging their wedge around like a baseball bat. And the spinning blade of Hammerhead goes flying out of the arena in the final seconds of the match. That just might be the difference maker at the judges' scorecard, folks. That's the match. We're going to judges' decision. Well fought by both competitors there. What a match. I think this is a close one there, folks. Once again, as judges are deliberating, they score based on the amount of pressure and forward momentum towards the opponent, amount of time spent controlling and pinning your opponent against the side, and damage.
Unanimous for Hammerhead.
And by unanimous decision, this victory goes to Hammerhead!
This fight had some close scares, with Hammerhead getting the back standoff stuck on one of the push-out gate doors early on in the fight. This led to me running around to the other side of the arena so I could see Hammerhead and then throttle the weapon up and down to get the weapon vibrations to slowly bounce Hammerhead back into the arena. Throughout most of the fight, I was able to land some hits without being pinned too often, and it was going great until I got flipped upside down, where I was slightly too high to hit Mr. Plow's body. I just clipped the magnet off the top of him and then was unable to hit him. So what I did was I would run up to his wedge until my body was lined up straight against his, then I would turn quickly to gyro and have the top of the weapon drop into the top of his frame. This was definitely not ideal, but led to me actually being able to land hits consistently throughout the rest of the match and get a win-off decision. After this match, I realized that the top plate was beginning to come off due to the metal machine screws I was using ripping right through the threads of the PLA frame. This led to me adding Gorilla Tape and zip ties over the drive pods to try and keep the top on. The back standoff was also broken and I had no spares, but thankfully, Dave from Dave Team was able to quickly cut out a replacement from some scrap 5052 aluminum I had and just barely get Hammerhead ready to go against definitely a Fingertech kit, a Viper lifter kit.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fight!
And here we go. Hammerhead's blade quietly spinning, definitely a Fingertech kit. Looking to use that flipper to gain some control and some pins against the wall. Hammerhead scraping up against that front bumper now. Definitely a Fingertech kit is going to look to grab Hammerhead from the sides or behind. I don't know that they're going to find much purchase from a frontal assault there. And some bounces happening. Definitely a Fingertech kit targeting the wheels, trying to go on the other side. But definitely a Fingertech kit hunting for a pin and some control time here. Definitely a Fingertech kit. Staying very resilient against that spinning blade of Hammerhead so far. That metal plate at the front is doing some good work keeping definitely a Fingertech kit safe. They are currently upside down. Is that a good thing or a bad thing though? Fingertech kit is choosing to remain upside down at the moment. Both robots scraping against each other again at the moment. Fingertech kit might even be a little bit safer upside down against Hammerhead spinning blade, to be honest. Hammerhead finding nothing but metal at the moment. Not a whole lot of damage done. Little pieces flying here and there. And we might be getting close to our first pin here. We'll find out. But Hammerhead releases a little bit early as Fingertech kit flips back onto their right side. Fingertech kit going bouncing off the walls a little bit there. Still trying to find a window of opportunity with their spinning blade. But off the blade goes again, right at the final seconds of the match too.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And that's time. We finished the match with both robots in the middle of the arena. Both wheels still spinning very strongly. We'll see what the judge's verdict is.
You got one wheel and one. I only just got back, so I can't. No, it's just you and Matt, I think. Unanimous Hammerhead.
And by unanimous decision, the victory goes to Hammerhead.
Not much to say about that one, except more of the same. Just slowly chipping away at the front armor and wheels before eventually breaking one of his gearboxes and getting the win by decision. At this point, I was in the winner's bracket final against Cotton Confetti, a four-wheel drive vert that I had practiced against in preparation for this event with my wedge tardigrade.
And here we go. Both competitors revving up their blades before meeting up for some combat. Hammerhead looking like their steering and driving hasn't gotten fully repaired yet as some shrapnel goes flying here. Oh man, more bits of somebody have gone flying. And we see some quick action immediately. Hammerhead looking like they're having some trouble getting their weapons spinning again. There it goes, starting back up. But Cotton Confetti taking the initiative here and getting a couple of extra blows. We'll see if Hammerhead can get spinning again and get some damage done of their own, as they are still deflecting that vertical spinner of cotton confetti for now. And we're seeing some sparks fly as they make contact. A piece of something goes flying again. Oh, that's Confetti's weapon.
That was the weapon shaft in my face.
Confetti is now a little bit weaponless. We'll see if they can grab some victories. But looking like their driving is compromised as well. Something to do with some wheel damage. Hammerhead, with their blade still spinning, now has the opportunity to return some damage as we are nearing the halfway point of the match. There's still plenty of time to get some work done. Hammerhead continuing to look for some angles here. Being upside down gives him a little bit of a tougher time getting damage onto cotton confetti, though, it appears, as their blade spins a little bit above the main frame of cotton confetti. Hammerhead observing with bated breath as they charge themselves into the wall. Now both are disabled, and both are going to have to find some pressure using some control time and maybe some pins, as both have lost their offensive capabilities. Is my mic back? Oh, thank goodness. Yeah, with both weapons disabled, we'll see who finishes out strong in the last 30 seconds here. It might be coming to judges' scorecard, as we did not see any disables or tap outs or ring outs. Both of them have some limited driving capabilities after this conflict as well, however. So it's kind of really hard to call. We'll see what the judges' deliberation is as we finish out the countdown. And that's the match. What a good one. Lots of damage. That's a bad sign for both, though, as they have short repair times and both are still alive in the tournament.
Yeah. He did more damage. He took 2 wheels off. Hammerhead still had a working broadside.
So it's unanimous for
Just do like you did the last
And your winner of this match by unanimous decision, it's Hammerhead.
That fight went really well. I was able to land some decent hits, take off one half of his wedge and remove a wheel, and completely gut his weapon assembly from the frame. Being in the final at this point, my opponent was Cotton Confetti again. He ended up beating Slice in the loser's bracket final to come back for a rematch.
And here we go. Cotton Confetti is charging towards Hammerhead right now. Pieces have already gone flying. Oh, Cotton Confetti's loaded confetti onto them. How nice. There's a piece of metal. I assume that's a bar from somebody on the ground, as Hammerhead is starting to rev up that spinner. Flipped upside down. We'll see if it has the range to attack Cotton Confetti when they're in that upside down position. Looks like their spinning blade is having trouble once again finding some purchase here. Cotton Confetti putting the pressure on and attempting to pin Hammerhead into the corner here.
the mount, whatever's left.
Hammerhead fighting back though, but looks like Cotton Confetti got their prongs into that spinning blade of Hammerhead, locking up their weapon as they attempt to release from each other. There we go. I think Hammerhead is going to try to find an opportunity to get themselves back onto their right side up position, because that spinning blade from all the way up at the top of the frame is not having any success finding a spot to attack.
Blade is wobbly.
Oh, and that blade is starting to wobble and dislodges from the central body. Hammerhead is now in a tough position as Cotton Confetti is slowly shoving them, and at that angle, neither of their wheels have any purchase. There is the knockout, and Cotton Confetti scores a victory.
That fight was going well up until I got flipped. Once I was upside down, I could only really hit what was left of his weapon mount, which meant he just pushed me around until my weapon motor came out. After that, I knew I had no chance of winning, so I stopped moving and let him push me out. Initially, I thought that all I had to do was screw the weapon motor back in and I would be good to go, but upon further inspection, I had a lot of damage to try and fix, with the drive motor slowly being ripped out of the sides of the bot and having the screws that held the gearbox on pull out as well. Unfortunately, I didn't have enough time to repair and entered the arena for the last fight before realizing my drive didn't work. Fortunately, my opponent was nice and ran into me a few times once I revved up my weapon to try and make some noise and sparks for the crowd. But, yeah, with that being said, Hammer Time takes second place.
And Hammerhead looking like they are struggling to find mobility here. Cotton Confetti rushing in and delivering a quick blow. That blade's still spinning though. We'll see if that lends to any damage towards Cotton Confetti or not. Their back's up against the corner now.
I will. I'm not letting you go without a good. I want to properly rest. Rest by what? He rested Good job, Jacob. Jacob's real
And with Hammerhead unable to make the count, that's a technical knockout.
Overall, I'm pretty pleased with how Hammer Time performed. It showed a decent bit of promise, and it was the only robot to beat the eventual winner, Cotton Confetti. But there were definitely some flaws for Hammerhead. So, the future improvements. I want to change the frame from PLA to Polymaker PLA+. This will fix the ridiculous amount of stress fractures that occurred at various points in the event. I want to change the back standoff to get rid of the fork mounts and round the bottom of the standoff more to hopefully avoid getting stuck again like in the Mr. Plow fight. I want to have different options for the back standoff. That way I can have the weapon sit lower down when I'm fighting a lower robot such as Cotton Confetti. I'm going to use Loctite on my screws, and I'm going to use the newer F2822 that uses 6 screws to secure the blade mount to the motor. I'm going to try and finish version 2 of Hammerhead before I sign up for an event. This way I'll have spare parts and be more prepared with a robot that I've had more practice with. I would also like to switch to a lighter weapon bar, which will free up enough weight for me to run a 3mm 6061 aluminum top plate instead of running a 1.5mm top plate and then running some PLA on top of it. And lastly, I'd like to work on preventative maintenance. For example, in the second fight versus Cotton Confetti, the screws holding my motor to the top plate vibrated loose after all the hits from the earlier matches. This could have been prevented by using Loctite, like I mentioned earlier, or retightening the screws in the pits after each fight when I had the time. I also forgot to mention that I'm switching to better screws so that the top plate doesn't just come off again. Anyways, thanks for watching.